Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Rich, and today in this video I'm going to be showing how I diagnosed and eventually fixed my parking sensors on my 2008 BMW X5. If you're having a similar issue, hopefully one of these things will help you figure out what's going on with yours. So let's get into it. So the front parking sensors are emitting this continuous tone, so something's not quite right. So I've gone through quite a few things to figure out what's happening, diagnose what the problem is, and I've split it into 5 key parts. So hopefully if you're doing a similar sort of diagnosis, one of these will help you figure out what's going on with yours. Obviously you won't have the same issue as mine, but it'll give you some insight into some of the issues that can cause the problem. So the first thing to check will be, are the parking sensors clean? So are they free from dirt and all that kind of stuff? Mine were fine, you know, after a good car wash they were fine. So yeah, we kind of ruled out that one straight away. So the next thing, are there any error codes on the dash? Or is the PDC button, is the light blinking, is it flashing? Again, there were no issues with mine, but it's worth just doing a quick diagnostics tool, doing a quick scan for any codes, and usually it will say if there is a problem with one of the sensors, it will tell you which sensor has the problem. So it will say sort of front left, front right, etc. If it isn't specific and doesn't tell you, what you can do is, if you get out of the car with the engine running and you've switched the PDC sensors on, if you go out and stick your ear right close to the sensors, they should emit kind of like a clicking noise. So then you know that they're fundamentally functioning okay. So yeah, if you obviously have an issue with one of them via the code, so it tells you that one of them, excuse me, that one of them's not working, then it's probably a replacement job. But if it's not and you can hear it clicking, then that's probably not the issue. So the third thing to check is the wiring and all the modules. So the module is actually located in the boot, in the right side compartment. So if you kind of pull out the compartment, and then there's sort of a flap of carpet and there are a few modules in there. The PDC module is the most obvious one. And just check, is there any sort of water ingress in there, or any sort of dodgy wiring, or any corrosion on the electrical points. So worth checking there. And then there's obviously the loom that goes to the front bumpers and to the rear bumpers. So just checking sort of any electrical connections, are there any issues with that? So number 4, is there a problem with your ring? Not as painful as it sounds, but what I'm referring to is the little sort of rubber seal that's on the parking sensor. So it's actually called a decoupling ring. That's how BMW terms it. And it's not actually a rubber seal, which was surprising when you sort of first look at it. But just check that it's intact. Again, all mine were fine. They were there were no sort of tears in them or damage to them. But worth checking. This means you obviously have to take the bumper off and have a look. But it was something well worth checking to make sure the decoupling ring is intact. So I got a note actually here from, this is what BMW actually say about it. So it says the reception quality may be reduced if no or an incorrect decoupling ring is fitted. In addition, the PDC will emit a continuous tone even when there is no obstacle in range. So that's the issue we're getting. We are getting that continuous tone, but all the decoupling rings that I can see, or the sort of the rubber decoupling rings, all seem fine. So again, that's probably not the issue. So by this point we're well and truly clutching at straws, but I found an interesting document that, well, as interesting as parking sensors can be, that actually talks about the technology behind the parking sensor system, specifically in the E70 X5. And And I found an interesting paragraph in there, and it basically says, when washing the vehicle with a high pressure washer, which most of us do not spray continuously at the ultrasonic sensors and maintain a minimum distance of 10 centimeters. So, I mean, I definitely get closer than 10 centimeters when pressure washing, so that could be a likely culprit. The unit itself is watertight, but the electrical connections at the back aren't. So I guess if you're pressure washing closer than 10 centimeters, water can kind of go into the electrical connections. So I guess it's a case of taking the bumper off and having a look. So I'll show you how to do that right now.
So once you've opened the bonnet, it's just a case of removing the 5 8mm hex bolts at the top of the bumper. Really easy, they shouldn't be too tough to get out. And then it's a case of removing the 4 8mm hex bolts either side of the bumper. So you shouldn't have to remove the wheel to get access to these. So there's this one on the side here, and then there's one that's vertical. And then you have 4 more 8mm hex bolts on the underside of the bumper, as well as 4 quick release screws. A few of mine were missing, but it's not really a problem. They're quick and easy to replace. And then you need to ideally use a pry tool, or just be careful using a screwdriver, but there are 4 push tabs in these locations, and you'll hear them click, and then the bumper will sort of start to give away. So then when you've released the tabs on both sides, just pull one side and then it will start to come away, and then just a case of going to the other side and doing the same. When you pull it off, just be careful because the wires will still be attached, and they're a little bit short, and they're sort of clipped into the back of the bumper. So just when you've unclipped it, find it somewhere nice and safe to lay down. So when you've removed the bumper, you can unclip the loom from the sensors. Just have a quick inspection of the electrical points. This particular one looks okay. It's a case of going across all of them. So then we can have a quick look behind the bumper and the actual car and just check all the loom. This is actually the PDC loom. It looks like it's been attempted repair before. Obviously that cable tie is not factory, I don't think. And it's kind of been clipped into a weird position. So I'm just sort of checking that there's no damage to the wire. It's looking pretty ropey. And just having a general check of the other side as well. So then back in the shed we can inspect a little bit closer. There's a lot of dirt and stuff around the decoupling sensor. Some of them were wet inside, so that immediately points to the issue. You can see that they're pretty filthy inside, and the insulation's not doing well. And you can see this one, there's just dirt on the inside, and it was actually wet when I took it off. So I think that this is probably causing the issue. So let's have a quick squirt of WD-40, solves all the problems. Let that dry out, obviously. And then before putting it back on the car, just giving the holders a bit of a clean out with WD, just to make sure that they're all okay. They weren't clipped in particularly well, so I'm just giving it a good old clean out now, just to make sure the decoupling ring is fine when it sort of sits back in there. Good old WD-40 solves all issues. And just sort of clipping it back in. So before we put it back in, it's just a case of clipping everything back and then putting the wires back in place. You can see there's a lot of insulation tape, so I dare say that someone's investigated this before and thought let's throw some insulation tape in there to make it watertight. But literally just throwing the bumper back on, clipping it back in place. And this is the state of the clips that are used to kind of mount the bumper. Obviously they're terrible condition, and that's the part number if you need to replace. There is a mounting kit you can get, so this is direct from BMW. This is the part number, and it has all the bolts and screws and everything you're ever going to need, and I think it's about less than 20 quid, so well worth it. So now it's just a case of testing it out, and hopefully the continuous tone is no longer there.
So there you have it. Turned out to be water getting into the sensors and causing them to go haywire. Nice and simple fix with a bit of WD-40. It might mean I have to go in sort of 6 months time and spray them again, but the bumper's so easy to get off, that's not really a problem. So I hope that some of the info in this video will help others pinpoint their problems with their sensors. So please do share your experiences in the comments below. I'm sure some of your insight will help others if they have similar issues. So if you found this video useful, please do subscribe to my channel, like the video. I'll be doing many more videos in the near future, so I hope to see you soon.